Hi, listeners. This season, we've talked about trillion-dollar markets and revolutionary technology. But at the end of the day, what makes a founder keep going when building gets hard?
Today, our final episode of the season. Two founders share what they've learned about building companies, leading teams, and staying authentic when everything is on the line.
I'm Shannon Austin.
I'm Johan Bossini, and this is the $1 Trillion Opportunity.
Hello, my name is John Santillan. I am the co-founder and the CEO of a company called Octa.
Octa is a treasury management platform. But beyond the business, John has developed some very clear philosophies about what it takes to build a company that lasts.
When we asked him for advice he had given to other founders, he had 3 specific principles he wanted to share.
3 things. The first one is fundraising is not a validation. It's a fuel for you to test and experiment what could work. That's number 1. Number 2, I would say distribution is a moat and not only the product and idea. And then I would say the last one would be speed to learn beats speed to ship. You create a thesis of what you want to learn and then validate that as quickly as possible without even putting a product out there. One thing that actually helps me a lot is this be truth seeking. Play the long game and make it not just about the founder, not just about you. If Octa wins, then, especially in the region, we can help and shape a stronger ecosystem. And the next wave of the founders and operator can build from a higher starting point than we had.
But perhaps what sets John apart most is his approach to transparency. He's one of those rare founders who shares everything, the successes and the failures, in public.
John has a philosophy about building in public.
Building in public is about owning our story before someone else tells it to us, right? And because I've experienced before that if you leave your story to others, they'll definitely fill that gaps, and more often than not, they'll get it wrong. Sharing the progress, all the mistakes, the lessons, and the people behind the work that we're doing, it works in our case.
And he's remarkably honest about the challenges.
Either it's good, either bad, or either that we're still figuring out. Ultimately, it builds trust. You'll be surprised how many customers we get by just getting, reading our posts in LinkedIn, clarity with our investors, right? Attracting and getting some, cold email from investors that they would like to come in and join the journey. When Nupur, my co-founder, and I started this company, one of the non-negotiable part for us is the authenticity. So if something, for example, is broken, I'll be the first one to say it. If I made a mistake, I'll raise my hand and I'll say yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. Or if I don't know, I would admit it, right? And the reason for that for me is again, it's kind of experience that I've learned from the company that I built before. Pretending to have all the answers just isolates you from the reality. And I think for me, being honest or being authentic and gives my team, and of course my investor, a chance to actually help if there's a challenge or if there's a problem. And then overall from the company building, I would say it's create a culture where my team feels that they can do the same thing, right? So they can make mistakes and then call it out and also figure out how to fix things. It just shows how we can move faster by building trust and by doing this, authenticity and being over-communicative as well.
David Hanna takes a different approach. He's the CEO of Finmo, a Southeast Asia-based treasury management platform, and he spent the last 20 years in regulatory and compliance roles at companies like PayPal. Now, that background shapes everything about how he thinks about leadership and decision-making.
David has this self-deprecating humor about his expertise, but behind the jokes is someone who's learned hard lessons about building teams and making tough calls.
And David also has this thing about compliance being his favorite topic. You've talked on LinkedIn about compliance being your favorite topic, which I imagine makes you very popular at dinner parties.
People always ask me, how did you fall into that? And I never know how to answer that question. In fact, my wife is a lawyer by background. So as you can imagine, the dinner conversations are very interesting. I'm talking about regulatory, she's talking about law. At some point, I needed to get out of that and bring a commercial mindset to the dinner table, and she can still talk about the legal frameworks of the world.
I was about to say, can't wait to have you guys over for dinner. Woo! Break out the wine.
So, for my sins over the last 2 decades, as I say, I've been living that world far too closely. I think, look, the good thing is that, and, shout out to the mature regulators around the world, there's a move towards what I call an international kind of standard, right? And gone are the days where maybe as I started my career 20 years ago, there was more local nuance than there is today.
After 2 decades of work experience, many founders would think they know everything. But David is always learning.
I think you've got to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge your thinking. And again, this is going to sound super cliche, right? But
it's true. It's true.
There's always this thing of the yes mentality and someone telling you yes and so on and so forth. As a founder and CEO, that's not what I want. Actually, what I want is an alternate point of view, right? And I always say to the management team, please bring all the points of view to the table. At the end of the day, maybe I make the call as required, but 7, 8, 10 brains is better than one. The quicker founders can get mentors and leaders and other people around them that can challenge their thinking, that can strategically kind of shape, that thinking and so on. And it's not about just, yes, that's a validation or whatever the case is. It's actually, have you thought about it doing it this way or that way or whatever the case is, and adding that value. So the quicker founders can do that. And often you get stuck in a world where you don't want that as a founder, because what you're finding, particularly as a young founder, because what you're finding is you just want to validate your thesis and the problem statement, etc. So you often go to the easiest path, right? But to me, it's about going the harder path, right? Challenging through and trying to cut through and think about it from different perspectives quickly. Challenge the thinking, problem solve, one step at a time, and persevere, right? At the end of the day, solving big problems is not easy. If it was, everyone would do it. And again, all the cliche statements in the world, but they're really true.
2 founders, 2 different approaches, but some very common themes: the importance of authenticity, the value of being challenged, and the long-term view of building something meaningful.
That's our season. From treasury management to accounts receivable, from Singapore to the Middle East, we've explored how entrepreneurs are rebuilding finance to work better for everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. The $1 Trillion Opportunity is produced by Quona and Pod People. Our producers are the incredible Danielle Roth, Julie Bilevsky, and Hannah Pedersen. Carter Wogan and David DeLuca edit the show. Thank you, guys. Special thanks to my hero, Rachel King and Amy Machado.
Shannon, that's been great fun. Thank you so much. And until next season.
We'll talk then. Thanks, Johan.